Writers, I am so excited about this lesson only because this is one of my favorite things to do as a writer. Now, it is essential, 100% important to be able to shift back and forth between being a writer and being a reader. First a writer, then a reader, then a writer, then a reader. It's important to go back and forth because it makes your writing stronger if you're able to shift back and forth as you're writing. Brave writers reread their work. They read it so that they can make it even better. Now, what I mean by this is that writers don't necessarily work to write long stories. That's not the idea. We don't want to just add words and add words and add words and add words. And I know sometimes teachers or grown-ups might tell you, you need to add a little bit more. You need to add a little bit more. And that's true. We do need to add a little bit more, but not to make it longer. We don't want to just make our stories longer. We write and we work to make the characters talk, to make them more exciting, to show more about what they did. Now, if you have listened to the reading lesson today, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, that's okay. These two things, this lesson for writing and the lesson for reading, are kind of connected because writers want to help make their writing beautiful to read. And why do they want to make it beautiful to read? They want to make it beautiful to read so that the reader remembers it, so that they're able to picture it in their mind, so that they're able to make that movie so that they can remember all of the wonderful, beautiful things that are happening in the story. So today, we are going to work on making our stories beautiful. Now, Arabella, you have already written one beautiful story, and maybe you've started another one. Brave writers write every day, and they start new stories and new books all of the time. So it's quite possible that you might be starting a new story today, and that's okay. Remember, when we're writing these narratives, we're taking a small moment, a tiny little piece of time, right? And we're writing about that tiny piece of time. And often it will have a trouble in it or an event that happened to us. So we start our story with a character and a setting, and then the trouble comes up right kind of in the beginning. There's a hint at it, right? There's a hint that there might be some kind of trouble. And then in the middle, the trouble really starts to develop. And by the end, that trouble is resolved. Now, you may or may not have a story started. So you're going to start a story today if you haven't. But, and I'm not going to have you write for a really, really, really long time, but I would like you to think about what you're going to do after you get that story down on paper. Because brave writers reread, that's where the reading part comes in, so that they can add dialogue and they can add small actions to their writing to make their writing stronger. And of course, when we add dialogue and we add small actions, then it gets longer and longer. So we're not about just writing it, making it longer. We want to make it be interesting too, right? Has to be totally interesting. So I want to show you a story, a piece of a story that I wrote. This is only a piece. And actually this is I wrote this down, but it's from the perspective of my daughter, Olivia, because this actually did happen to her. So I was kind of pretending I was putting myself in her place to write this for you. And it was one day she was riding her scooter and it was going really very too fast, very much too fast. So I'm sure that you can figure out what might have happened. So this is just a piece of it. And it says, my leg was cut and it was bleeding. I was crying. My mom came to help but it kept hurting so bad. I bet you can picture that in your mind because I bet that you can make a connection. I'm sure something like this might have happened with you before. But we want to make sure that we're adding small actions into our writing and that we're adding dialogue. Dialogue is when the characters are talking. We want to hear what they have to say. They have important things to say. The stories are about them. So we want to add small actions and we want to add dialogue. Now, I'm going to slide this down to show you how I was able to do that. Okay. Down here, you'll see it looks a little longer, right? It's a little bit longer than this piece, but that's because I'm adding important information in. Let's try it again. It says, my leg was cut up here. Look what I did down here. My leg had a deep cut. And up here it says, and it was bleeding. My leg had a deep cut. It was filled with dirt. You ever have those cuts where they're like got all that gravel inside of it? I was crying. I was screaming. It hurts. It hurts. I forgot my end quotes. The blood was going down my leg. Up here, I only said it was bleeding. My mom came to help, but it kept hurting so bad. My mom ran to help me. She picked me up and hugged me. Can you picture that? Can you feel the emotion? Can you feel how badly this was? It hurts. That's a lot more powerful than hurting so bad, right? It's more powerful when we add that dialogue to our stories. We want to bring the characters to life. In order to bring the characters to life on paper, we need to make sure that when we're imagining a part, we're making sure that we are showing what the characters did and saying what the characters are saying. We are acting it out. So what I want you to do today when you're writing your stories, before you even write your story, Arabella, or as you're reading over your story, Jaden and Abby, when you're reading it over, we want to think about those characters and we're going to bring those characters to life. We want to imagine the part. Everything's backwards to me. We want to imagine the part. We want to think about what the characters say and what the characters are doing. And then sometimes it helps to act it out. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to say or what I wanted to add to this story, I was kind of thinking about when she fell and when she got up and she was like, it hurts. I acted it out in my brain. I acted it out right here for you. And it helps me to get those right words that I need for the dialogue in my story. And then, and only then, do we rewrite or tell exactly what happened? Okay, so today your job in Writer's Workshop, your job in your writing is to bring those characters to life. Imagine that part. Say and do what the characters are doing. Act it out. Add those small actions and add that dialogue to make your stories more interesting and to make your stories have that beautiful language in them. Okay? Good luck. Off you go. I can't wait to see what you write today.